Well, at the beginning of every year, I try to choose one word that's going to guide me, our church, and our staff into 2022 this year. And so the word I chose this year, just praying, is I really felt like God gave me this word. It's perspective. And I think for so many of us, the last few years have caused us to lose some perspective. That's especially true in many areas of our life, but especially in our relationships. So as we kick off this year, we've been trying to develop a new mindset. What Philippians chapter 2, verse 5 tells us to do, it says, in your relationships with one another, whether that's married or dating or friendships or family, have the same mindset in your relationships. Have the same perspective as Jesus. You know, it was last weekend that we sent our oldest daughter back to college again. And before we sent her off to college, we had her go get her car checked out because we wanted to make sure it was safe. And so we took her to the mechanic, and the mechanic gave us a report back. And does anyone else get surprised every time you take a car in? Like every single time there's something wrong with it, you know? And so, yeah, we had several things wrong. We had to get the brakes done. We had to get the tires replaced. And it cost us something to do that. And as I got to thinking about this more, because I always get surprised, I thought, why am I surprised? Like cars are designed by nature to actually need maintenance, to break down. When you buy a car, you actually get a maintenance schedule with the car. And we still get surprised, you know? And I think the same is true of our relationships. You know, sometimes we're like, relationships need maintenance. They do not maintain themselves. And so in this series, what we've been doing is demystifying what relationships need to work and some of the work we need to do. And the tool we've been using throughout this series is something called the relationship attachment model, developed by Dr. John Epps. It's his life work. He's taken scripture and proven through empirical research that there are 5 bonds to every relationship that need some work all the time. And they're that you get to know someone, that you trust someone, that you can rely on someone, that you have a commitment, and that there's appropriate levels of touch in the relationship. And my favorite thing about this model, we've talked about it every week, is that if you're married, these are the things that you need to balance in a relationship. And just like a leaky tire, slow leak on a tire, in a marriage, these are slowly leaking all the time. And if you're not putting air in, if you're not maintaining them, you're gonna have a flat tire or you're gonna have a blowout. So these need maintenance all the time. But the other thing I love about this model is that outside of marriage or a really long-term friendship or family relationship, when there's a new relationship, especially in dating, this is the biblical progression of a relationship. That you know someone before you trust them, before you rely on them, before you have a commitment, and then before there's all this touching going on. And what we did week 1 is we're walking through each of these. We talked about really getting to know someone, which is the foundation of every relationship. Then we talked about trust last weekend, which is the fuel for every relationship. And today we're gonna talk about rely. Now, what I love about this idea of rely is it's the proving ground for trust in a marriage, and it's the prerequisite for committing to someone if you're dating someone. And when you really think about the idea of relying on another person, relying on someone else, there are 2 extremes I want to talk to you about, because you might find yourself leaking into one of these extremes. I'll just give you the extremes in my own language today. One of them is an unhealthy over-dependence on someone, and I call that the "you complete me" myth, okay? So you're over-dependent on someone. On the other side of the spectrum is a dangerous independence you develop, which I would call the "I don't need anybody" attitude. Now, I want to talk about these for just a minute, and I'll start on this side of the equation with the unhealthy overdependence. How many of you remember the movie Jerry Maguire? Anybody remember the movie Jerry Maguire? Even if you've never seen Jerry Maguire, you've heard maybe one of the most famous romance scenes and lines in any romance movie of all time. It's when Tom Cruise looks at Renee Zellweger in this movie, and he's like crying, his hair's all messed up, he's a mess, he's trying to figure out if they're gonna stay together, and he looks at her and he says, do you remember what he says? He says, "You complete me." And do you remember what she says back? "You had me at hello." And they embrace, they complete each other. Why is that one of the most famous lines of any romance movie? Think about this. It's because that's what many of us want. We want to meet someone that completes us. If we just meet the one, our soul mate, he's my soulmate. If we just meet that one person, we will finally be filled up and completed. And if you have even bought into this myth, even a little bit, when you date someone or even when you get married, you will project that on someone else that they can complete you, and you are in big trouble. But this is what Hollywood tells us in almost every movie, every TV show, every romance novel, is that there's one person that can complete you. And if you walk into a marriage like that and you think that, you will be utterly disappointed. In fact, that's where some of you are today. You're so disappointed because you've expected someone else in a really unhealthy way to fill every void inside of you, something they were never designed to do. Someone else cannot complete you. Only Jesus can. Only Jesus can fill the deepest recesses of your soul. I would tell you, Jamie and I, my wife and I, we have an incredible marriage. I would tell you that. I am head over heels. We are head over heels in love with each other. I really mean that. And I can tell you so honestly today that Jamie does not meet every single one of my deepest needs. And I know this will surprise some of you. I mean, just looking at this physique, today on stage, I don't even come close to meeting all Jamie's deepest needs in her life. In fact, I would tell you there's seasons and times in our marriage we deeply disappoint each other. But we know we don't complete each other. Jesus is who completes us fully. Now, that doesn't take away that each of us has deep things we have to meet in the other person. We have to meet each other's needs, and we'll talk about that in a moment. I'm just trying to say there's an unhealthy overdependence on some of our relationships where we expect out of someone to do something that only Jesus can do in your life. Let me give you a verse that I think can reorient your mind on this thinking. In Colossians chapter 2, verse 8 through 10, it says this: "Don't let anyone capture you with empty philosophies and high-sounding nonsense that come from human thinking and from spiritual powers in this world." Can I translate that for you for today? Don't listen to Hollywood's junk, that there's someone that can complete you. Where are we going to get our thinking from? Rather, we're going to get our thinking from Christ. Why? Because in Christ lives the fullness of God. It's where we can get our best thinking and understanding of how relationships work. And it goes on to tell us this so clearly in the next verse, verse 10. So you are also, say it out loud, you are complete where? With your union with Christ, in Jesus filling you up. That's what completes you, not another person. Yeah, some of us have just fallen into this trap, and that means if you're single here today, realize this: you're not broken because you're single. You are complete with Jesus in your life. Doesn't mean you can't want a relationship. It just means be really careful thinking that one person's going to complete you when Jesus has already filled you up. And I want to talk to someone here today, and I don't know who it is, but you know who you are. You've never gone all in with Jesus. And your marriage is hurting, your relationships are hurting, and I want to tell you so boldly and clearly today, you'll never have the relationship and the marriage you want until you let Jesus fill you up. Here's why. How could you ever love someone else the way that even you want to love them if you still have a void in your heart that only Jesus can fill? So there's someone here today, I don't know who you are, but it's time for you to go all in with Jesus and get baptized. And if that's you, you talk to any one of our pastors, we're here to help you. But that's the one thing that will make your relationship go further faster than anything else, because a marriage centered on Jesus is a marriage that can actually progress into the future. But for all of us today, I would say this: the more you turn to Jesus to meet your deepest needs, the more capable you'll be to meet your spouse's actual needs. I want to say that again. When you turn to Jesus to be the core and center of your life, to fill the deepest recesses of you, it's only then that God can empower you to actually love others the way they need, the way you want to love them. So be very careful going too far on the extreme of thinking one person can complete you. Well, that's true. Let's guard against the other extreme as well, right? What's the other extreme? That I don't need anybody. I don't need anyone. And I think our culture screams this at us today. You're your own man. You're your own woman. You don't need anybody. And so the independence talk is just big, and sometimes it's sneaky. We hear things like self-love, self-care, self-talk, self-help. Not all those are bad, but you understand there's a healthy, an unhealthy, dangerous independence that can develop inside of us. And where does it come from? Oftentimes this independence comes from our past hurts. What's happened to some of us is we had a relationship, we had a dating relationship, and we thought they were the one, and it crumbled, or we went through a divorce or a really painful breakup, or some of us, even in our childhoods, because of our parents' pain and them not even knowing better, they would tell us things like this: don't you ever depend on a man. Don't you ever fully depend on a woman. You be your own. You're independent. And what's happened is because of our past pain, we told ourselves we will never rely on somebody. So we have this unhealthy, dangerous independence that's developed. And I want to tell you, Scripture is so clear on this, so clear. God designed us to find our ultimate fulfillment in Him, but He did not design us to live independent of other people. I mean, just think about at the beginning, the first pages of Scripture, chapter 2, Genesis chapter 2, Jesus creates the very first human. And Adam is with God in paradise, in the Garden of Eden. There is no sin. Adam has complete relationship with God. Everything's perfect. And God looks at Adam on his own, and what does God say? So clear. It is not good for man to be alone. You were not designed to be independent and not rely on other people. So when we go back to this slide, I just want to point out, both of these extremes are crazy unbiblical, and they will destroy your relationships. So what do we need? We need a biblical mindset, which is what? It's a healthy interdependence on others. That we learn to have a healthy dependence and to rely on others the way God designed it. Now, I'm just curious, when you look at these extremes, which way do you think our culture leans today? In general, do you think we lean a little bit more towards being too over-dependent on others or a little too independent? How many think over-dependent? Just raise your hand. How many think we lean a little too independent of others? I see a lot of independent hands, and I would agree in general. I would say my opinion is during the dating phase of a relationship, I think we can lean a little bit too far on this one, on the you complete me scale. I think after you're married and the rest of your life, the gravitational pull is to move this way to just get crazy independent. So what I want to do today with a little bit of our time is I'm just going to talk to those of you that are dating or you would like to date, and then I'm going to talk to those of you that are married so we can get this right, all right? If you're dating today or you want to date, and remember, these concepts apply to every relationship, friendships and family as well. But if you're dating or you want to date today, here's what I would tell you. Be careful not to rush too quickly to rely on someone before you know them and you can trust them. And I see this a lot. Some people get in an unhealthy reliance on someone so quickly. Why does that happen? A lot of times that happens when you enter a relationship in an unhealthy emotional state. And if you enter a relationship right after maybe a death of a loved one, or maybe a massive breakup and you're on the rebound, or you went through a really tough divorce, or it could be that you're struggling with your mental health, or let's say you went through something really, really hard, like really hard. You just got done watching the Cardinals implode in the playoffs. Implode, all right? And you're depressed, Don't miss this. When you walk into a relationship not in an emotionally healthy spot, you can rely on someone to fill the void you have in your heart too quickly. And you really have to watch your emotional state when you enter a relationship so you don't rush it. And that's why I would tell those of you that have been recently divorced and you want to date again, my best advice to you is to take 1 year off or more from dating. And many people push back and they say, well, we were separated a long time before we ever got divorced. And I understand that, but finalizing a divorce is painful. And I really believe you want to walk into your next relationship with as much health as possible. And if you don't heal from your past, it's really hard to have health in your future. Is that fair? Someone needs to hear that. But for those of you dating today, let me just ask you this. How do you know while you're dating if you can really rely on someone in marriage to actually meet your needs? Because you have needs that need to be met. How do you know? And here's what I would tell you. While you're dating, watch carefully the other person's reciprocity, which just means the give and take that exists in a relationship. Do you see a healthy give and take? Let's say, for example, that in the relationship, on birthdays and holidays, you're always the one going above and beyond to really show them and make something special or give them something special, and then they just kind of sometimes forget or they blunder with you. That's a red flag. Let's say that sometimes you hang out with their family all the time, but they don't really hang out with yours. Red flag. If you're always going to their experiences and wanting them to feel special or watching their movies or going to where they want to eat and there's not any give and take in the relationship, that's a red flag. Let's say that there's a Suns fan dating a Lakers fan, all right? I was going to use Cardinals versus Seahawks, but guys, the wound's just too fresh, okay? The wound's just too fresh right now. And so Lakers, Suns, and the Lakers fan comes over to watch the Suns game with you. It's cool, they did that. Should you have to go watch the Lakers game with them? No, you're unequally yoked. Break up with them, okay? All right? So I'm kidding. I'm joking. The answer's yes. Yes. And guys, just don't miss this. Just watch the give and take. Watch the give and take. And here's why. I've told you this before, I'll say it again. What you experience in dating is the ceiling for marriage. And so many people miss this. They think, oh, when we get married, it'll all get better. He'll become selfless. What? Guys, there's extreme situations where God does miracles, especially when there's a non-Christian, but in general, what you experience is now, they put it on their best foot forward. That's the ceiling you got. Do you like what you're getting? Okay, that's for those of you dating. Let me shift to those of you married. I really believe in marriage, over time, the risk is you become way too independent of each other. And I love what Jesus says. Jesus reiterates what God tells us about marriage in Genesis. And Jesus says this in Matthew 19:5, for this reason a man will leave his father and mother and be united, watch this, united with his wife, and the two will become one flesh, one flesh. Now this is not just talking about sex. This is not a verse about sex. It's a verse about how God designed your marriage to operate as one. The word united here in the Greek in the New Testament is the same as in the Hebrew. It's the word for glue, that there'd be a uniting and a reliance on each other. And I just think it's so easy in marriage to get ununited, to not rely on each other. And you want to know why? It's because God made men and women so crazy different. Sometimes I want to ask God, why did you make us so different? Like we think differently, we act differently. And I think one reason God did is he wanted us to get over our selfishness. But it is so hard to get on the same page sometimes. And we have to fight to not become too independent. There was an English professor who got his class together one day, and he wanted to do an experiment. It was this really big class. And he gave the whole class one sentence, and he asked the English class, you add the punctuation and the commas to this sentence. And this is the sentence he gave them. Woman without her man is nothing. He said, you just add the commas in there, punctuation. So almost every woman in the class, here's how she punctuated the sentence. Woman, without her, man is nothing. The ladies are like, ugh, you know. Almost every guy in the class punctuated the sentence this way. Woman without her man is nothing. Did you just see the reaction between the guys and girls there? The guys don't even know what to say to that. They're like, should I laugh? Should I say anything? I'm so uncomfortable right now, babe. I don't think that at all. I don't think that at all. You know, it's like, so uncomfortable. But what happens, just get this, what happens in a marriage is we're so different. It takes so much work to get on the same page and begin to take each other's perspectives into account and to rely on each other. And some of us, it's so hard to do, we've said, forget you. I don't want your perspective. It's way too different than mine. I mean, think about the number of things you have to get on the same page about. With sex, with your finances, with your parenting, with your future, with your faith. And many of us have thought, their perspective is so wrong, I'm done with you. And if that's you, if you become so independent of the other person, I just want to ask, how's that working in your marriage? How's that going? Because in a marriage, when you operate independently, that creates distance in the marriage, and distance between spouses is where Satan likes to set up shop. That's where he does his best work. I mentioned this week 1 of the series, but the most painful season that Jamie and I have maybe ever experienced in our marriage is when we stopped relying on each other. In a certain season, it was during a parenting season, we saw things very differently in a parenting situation, and instead of coming together and finding each other's perspectives, we dug our heels in. Both of us, very honestly, dug our heels in, and we thought our way was right, and we didn't want to listen to the other, and so I can't even tell you how painful this was on us. When we were separated and divided in a marriage, especially when you have kids, it doesn't just divide you. Who else does it impact? It impacts the kids. And Jamie and I had a massive wake-up call. We realized we are not operating the way God designed us to operate in marriage, united as one. And so we came together and said, let me really listen to your perspective. Let me really listen to your perspective. And you know where the truth was? It was somewhere in the middle. That takes a while and just work to get to. But I am convinced of this more than I have ever been in marriage. The way God designed it to be is this, is that in your marriage, you will always make better decisions together than you do apart. Because God made you, if there's 2 followers of Jesus, God made you to rely on each other. You really are better together. And that's just not advice for marriage, that's advice for life. You were not designed to make independent decisions apart from other people. In fact, Proverbs chapter 15, verse 22 says, plans fail for lack of counsel. But with many counselors, with a lot of advice, plans can succeed when you rely on others, not just your own intuition and your gut. I love this verse from Romans chapter 12, verse 4 and 5, because it talks about us, the church, and what we need to do. It says this, it says, just as there are many parts to your bodies, so it is with Christ's body. Now, he's just talking about the church. The church is the body of Christ. He says we are all parts of it, and it takes every one of us to make it complete. There's that word again. For we each have different work to do. God made us different on purpose so we could rely on each other and be complete together as a church. And then he says this is so clear. He says, so we belong to each other. Each of us needs the others. Turn to the person next to you right now and say, you need me. Some of you said it like this. Some of you said it like this. You need me. But we literally, we need each other. We need each other. And this verse was not written to marrieds. It wasn't written to singles. It wasn't written to friends, and it wasn't written to family. It was written to all of us, the body of Christ. Let me remind you that if there was one person that could have operated and not relied on anyone, it was Jesus. He's perfect. And even Jesus surrounded himself with 12 other men that he sent out and relied on to go change the world, and he had an inner circle of 3. And if Jesus operated relying on other people in his life, why would you think you could operate differently? You can't live the life God wants for you if you live it independent of others. You can't. And that's why at CCV, we are continually challenging you to take your next step, to live out a biblical model of relying on others. Did you know 59 times in the New Testament we're given one another commands? We're told to love one another, to serve one another, to pray for one another, to instruct one another, encourage one another, show hospitality to one another. And in life, you can't meet any of the one another commands on your own watching Netflix. So we're telling you, you always have a next step in your faith here at CCV. And one of those next steps that we think is one of the most important next steps you can ever take is not just coming on the weekends and participating in this experience, but during the week, surrounding yourself with a smaller group of people to do life with. We call it a CCV group. And we have over 1,000 CCV groups meeting all across the valley, over 1,000, which means there's a group near you and for you. We have couples groups, young adult groups, singles groups, men's groups, women's groups. Our young adult and singles groups are a little bit larger in nature. And if I was a single here in our church today, there is no way I wouldn't be serving on the weekends every single weekend, and there's no way I wouldn't be in a group. It's one of the best ways to find someone that can be equally yoked with you and to meet someone. It happens all the times in our groups. And if you're married here today, I will promise you your marriage will get better when you participate in a CCV group, when you do life and you can rely on other people. Jamie and I in our marriage, we've been a part of a group since the day we got married. We were in a young marrieds group that changed our life early in our marriage. We've been in a group ever since, and some of the best growth we've had has been in a group. And one of my favorite things about our CCV groups is that not only do we learn together and serve together and study together and just do life with other people, all of us know that there's gonna be hard things that hit your life. Remember this chart, things get out of balance here. Life happens. And our groups are there for each other, to support each other, where you can rely on them when things get tough. And that's why I want you to see this story of Ryan and Melanie from our Anthem campus. They not only had to learn in their marriage to rely on each other, they learned to rely on their community, their groups. And it changed their life during one of their darkest seasons. Watch this.
Please pray for my perfect and amazing husband. He was released from the hospital last evening with COVID, all to be rushed back today via ambulance. He is in ICU on a ventilator. I know our God is a God of healing. My faith is in him. Please pray and keep praying.
I'm Ryan Robbins, and this is my wife, Melanie. We met each other 15, almost 16 years ago. We're very close. We do everything together. Most recently, I contracted COVID and wound up in a coma for roughly 3 months and hospitalized for 5. Yeah, and I'd say we had multiple health issues and stuff that's happened our entire relationship. So that's what also has kept us close, is that we just continue to get closer with every hill that we have to climb. We climb together.
About a year ago, it felt longer than a year ago, I told Ryan I was being prepared for something so big, something so huge, and I didn't know what it was, and I was really excited about it because I felt like it was going to be something big, good. And so when this first happened, I was like, God, are you kidding me right now? But at the same time, I had to thank him, because had I not had that last year's journey, I don't know how I would have pulled through this on faith as strongly as I did. And he made it.
Slowly, I learned that all the support that was pouring in to my family.
Well, there was just so many people that just, even at church, like through the women's group, through our neighborhood groups, through the people that we just know from serving at church. I mean, just the genuine care and concern from everybody just was like a blanket. It like on the days where I just wanted to cry, it lifted me in such a way that it just made things feel okay. people want to help. It makes people feel good to help. It's letting people in that's the hard part. When you're used to being the one that's there to help others, it's a different space when you're the one that's receiving all of this. Thank you, Jimmy James, and all of you fabulous young men. Our yard looks amazing. What a blessing. It made Ryan smile. I am in awe and overwhelming gratitude of the enormous outpouring of love and support from all of you, our family, friends, community, and strangers. Thank you will never be enough.
It really took a community to support my family when I couldn't. If not, I mean, honestly, I probably wouldn't be alive, because Melanie wouldn't have been able to be with me if she had to focus on everything that everyone else took off of her shoulders. Today we're in Harbor Rehab, and this is some place that I visit a couple times a week for 2.5 to 3 hours, where they endeavor to make me whole again and make me as tired as they can. I had less than 1% chance of survival. My story's not about COVID. It's about those around you. It's made me have a deeper appreciation for her love and my love for her, and the bond that, Christ has always been the center of our house and our relationship. But even more so now, I think hearing stories from others about what she did to fight, and for me, just to have breath, the prayers that come back every day of her speaking to me in a coma, really just have solidified our relationship to really, honestly, another level, where we're just partners in everything we do. And I cherish every minute that I get with her now, more than ever.
So good. Yeah. Thank you, Ryan and Melanie, for sharing your story. I love that they didn't operate independent of each other, but they didn't operate independent of community. And they needed it. We all need it. I love what Ryan said. He said, every hill we climb together, not just with each other, but with people in community. And how many of you know that most of life is uphill? It's uphill. And a lot of us have uphill hopes to get up those hills, and we have downhill habits. And many are in the habit, you're in a habit of not really investing in community. And if you don't invest in community and surround yourself with the right people, when you need it most, you won't have it, because you've been operating too independently. And if you ask me as a pastor, what keeps me up at night? If you said, Ashley, what keeps you up at night as a pastor? Here's what keeps me up at night. One is, what keeps me up at night is those that rely too much on technology versus real community. I get concerned if you live in the Phoenix area and you're just all you do is just watch online. You're not a part of the community of the church. You keep me up at night, because I want more for you. But I would tell you what really keeps me up at night is for those of you that come and you've never invested in a real community of people to do life with during the week, a CCV group. And I'm just begging you, I'm imploring you as your pastor, get into a group. You need it, and there's a group that needs you. And someone would say today, well, I've tried one, just didn't work. Try again. I mean, if you dated someone one time and it didn't work and you're like, I give up on dating forever, where would you be today? Don't operate that way. Try again. There's over 1,000 groups. There's one for you. Someone would say, well, I don't know much about the Bible. I still got to learn before I get into a group. You don't need to know anything. In fact, that's the perfect environment to get into a group, because you can begin to learn. You have people who are going to support you. You can rely on. Some would say, my schedule just doesn't allow it right now. I'll challenge you on that. You make time for what's important. And I would tell you this, that if you get in a group, it will save you time. Because when you can rely on others, you get past some of the difficult seasons of life. You know how much time you waste in your marriage arguing? What if there was a group that could help you? What if some of the hard seasons of life, there's a group that can get you through them quicker? It doesn't take your time, it saves your time. Make it a priority. Remember what Ecclesiastes says. It says, a person standing alone can be attacked and defeated. And that's some of you today, because you're alone, too independent. But two can stand back to back and conquer. Three are even better, because a triple braided cord is not easily broken. That's how you were designed to operate relying on other people, especially in community. CCV, it's high time that as a church, we stopped being independent. We started being interdependent on others. It's how God designed you to operate. It's been said, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. Here's my challenge for all of us today. Look at this spectrum. Just honestly evaluate, where are you at? Are you leaning one way or the other in a relationship today? And if you're already in a CCV group and you're married, I'd encourage you to get on a date this week and just have a conversation. Are we relying on each other to the extent we need to? And you might have to have some course corrections in humility to rely on each other more. If you're dating someone, you might need to really evaluate that dating relationship and say, hey, are we over-relying on each other? Am I a little over-dependent right now? Do we need to course correct? And for some of you here today, I would say this: you need to watch the give and take in a relationship. And if there's not reciprocity in a relationship, in a dating relationship today, here's my advice to you: dump them. I'm serious. It's not gonna get better. And there are 8 billion people on the planet. And you think God doesn't have someone else out there for you that can actually meet your needs in marriage versus you being a play toy for somebody else? Stop messing around. Do it God's way. But for anyone here today that is not a part of a CCV group, your challenge is simple. I'm gonna challenge you for 4 weeks, get into a CCV group. Try a CCV group for 4 weeks. Anybody can do that. Anybody can do that. You just see if God doesn't do great things in your life just being a part of a group. If you're single, you will get direction for life. And we have so many singles and young adult groups out there, they're amazing. If you're married, I promise you, it will make your marriage better. You in? You in? All right, hey, let me show you how to get into a group, how easy it is. If you open up your CCV app, you can text the word groups to 72020 if you want to do that. This is the easiest way. Just download our app, open up the app, lower right-hand corner, touch it, more. It says find a group right up top. It pulls up all our groups. It'll even pull up a map that shows every group around you. You can scroll through these groups, find a group that works for you. You can click on any group, find more information about the group, who's leading the group, where it meets, what night of the week. You can even go down here and filter. You can filter nights of the week. Hey, I can meet on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. I can meet these. You can search types of group. You can look for types of group that might work for you. And then what do you do? You find a group that works for you. You sign up and you show up. And you watch God do miracles. If you're sitting next to someone that you're in a relationship right now, as we've done every week, would you just grab their hand? Just grab their hand, and I want to pray for all of us that God would continue to give us the right perspective and mindset we need to see our relationships go to the next level in 2022. Let's pray. Father, we thank you for your word and that it doesn't return void. It's so true, and yet our culture, we're in our culture war, God, where our culture tells us one thing and your word tells us something else, and some of us are gonna have to make a decision, who are we gonna listen to? And I pray with this idea of relying on someone else that many of us wouldn't become over-dependent, but for so many of us, we've become too independent. And we need to rely on others, especially relying on a group to help us go further, faster in life, in our relationships. And for anybody that needs to join a group today, God, would you compel them and convict them to get on the app and sign up for a group to show up? And would you do miracles in their life? Father, we thank you for what you're doing in our church. We give you all the glory and credit. We lift up the name of Jesus. It's in his name we pray. Amen. Amen. Hey, next week we continue the series, Don't Come Alone. Have a great weekend, CCV.